Hello and welcome back everyone to Dicebreaker, where for the first time in like 4 weeks, I think, 3 or 4 weeks, we are doing a painting stream.
Yeah, it's been a little while.
We've had a lot going on, so we've put the painting to the side for a little while, but it's making its triumphant return today as the boys are back in town. It's me and Matt Jarvis doing some painting here on Dicebreaker. How you doing, Matt?
Hello, Wills. I'm all right, thanks. I've managed to dig out my paints from the box they were in when we moved, and I'm hoping that most of them aren't just disgusting like lumps of dried acrylic now. But I have seen a couple of them have separated out, which is not great. But look, I'm gonna make do.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I'll show off what we're painting today. So let's start with mine. So I've been building a Frostgrave warband. I've got my wizard and his apprentice here, and then I'm in the process of, if I get out my little work in progress guy, painting the cultists that follow them.
Very nice.
Yeah, so I've gone for like a sort of day and night theme. So you'll see that this is the main wizard. He's got like a sort of glorious sunset robe, and then he's got like a sort of star pattern over his like
that's really nice
robe underneath. And then the apprentice has the reverse, so he's actually got like a moon on his side as well, which is quite fun.
Well, every time I come onto one of these painting streams, it feels like when you see those YouTubers get into a boxing match with actual boxers, and you're like, yeah, I've just been painting this, and it's like these incredible, detailed miniatures, and then I'm over here like sticking my thumbs in the paint and eating glitter and so
Matt,
on.
You've got to remember this isn't a competition, you know?
No, it's not a competition, but you paint very, very well.
Thank you.
But I'll be doing my best, and that's all I can do. I am painting. Well, chat, let me know, because I've actually got a selection. So I dug out the miniatures from Battle in Barlin's Tomb.
I forgot that's what it was called.
Yeah, it's a Lord of the Rings board game that's put out by Games Workshop, the folks who make Warhammer. The main reason that I was interested to check it out, they sent us a copy, so I pinched it in the office. Is because the miniatures look very similar to the miniatures that I remember collecting when I was a kid, when I was big into the Lord of the Rings Warhammer game, or as I think it's officially called, the Middle-earth strategy battle game.
Yeah, something like that.
I thought it was like a horrifically unwieldy title.
At some point, I thought it was Battle for Middle-earth or something like that, but I think that's
no. Battle for Middle-earth is the PC game. I think it has changed. Originally, it was like Lord of the Rings strategy battle game. Then it was the Hobbit strategy battle game.
Oh.
Now it's just Middle-earth strategy. They changed it with the films. They kind of gave it different titles to try and keep it relevant. So I've put together a few of these. So the set contains it's set in Barlin's Tomb during the Fellowship of the Ring. So you get the Fellowship of the Ring. You get a load of goblins that I've not put together, despite the fact the goblins were the army I collected when I was a kid. I loved the goblins.
Yeah, I think I wanted to collect the goblins, but I collected it with my brother, and I think maybe he bagsied Mordor. Because it's basically just good and evil in that game. There's not really factions, is there? There's just sort of sub-factions.
Yeah, at least I think way back when. I don't know if they've made it any more complex since, but yeah. I remember just really liking the goblin armor. It was all kind of spiky, and I liked the way they crawled on walls. Although I will say my proudest moment that I ever remember from painting a miniature was when I managed to do the handprint on Lurtz's face with a brush.
Damn.
And I will never top that. So I've put together a few of the fellowships. I've got Aragorn.
There he is.
I've got Legolas, Greenleaf.
You can still see some of the bright blue plastic.
Yeah, they are color coded. So blue for Fellowship, red for goblins. There's Boromir, good friend Sean Bean, and of course Gandalf the Grey coming up as well. And then I've also put together the Cave Troll.
Yeah, I was about to say, where's the Cave Troll? Because that's the most exciting
Which comes
part
with
of
a selection. You can either have the spear or the hammer. And I asked my wife, and she said, give the troll the spear. So I did. So hey, chat, if you want me to paint Aragorn, Boromir, Legolas, Gandalf, or the Cave Troll, let me know, and I'll paint the one that you want me to paint.
Speaking of the chat, hello to everyone who's joined us today. We've got She's a Witch, we've got Hewley X Angel, Angel Beat, Chris Dan, Brett Walker, Wayhan Lim, 14, Jamie Dancer, Ken Doyle, David Leonard Flanagan, Binary. We've got Fell, of course, Mod in the chat. We've got My Cat is typing this. Who says, woo, Frostgrave Wizards, love that kit to bits. Yeah, no, I've got... So I went out, we were talking about Frostgrave in a thing that you will learn more about as time to comes. as time comes. Sorry for it. That was almost a sentence. And I went out and bought 2 of the box sets from Dice Saloon because, like, literally that day, because I was so excited about it. So I've built from this box, the Frostgrave Wizards, the first box, which is all the Bloke Wizards. I built these 2, and then I also got some cultists as my like backup dudes because they're just quite fun, and they look like very classic evil faction, which are quite fun.
Yeah.
Big sort of like original Citadel miniatures vibes.
There's something about the fact that the cultist's hood at the moment is like a fleshy kind of orange. It looks like on my screen.
It's quite a bright orange, but I think it's getting washed out by the if you look at this guy, you can see that. Yeah, no, it's getting very washed out actually by the LED. I think
it reminded me of the fun people from Spy Kids when I first saw it.
God. Please don't ever say that again.
I mean, in many ways, that is they are cultists of a kind.
Yeah.
The fun cultists. It seems like folks in the chat are into Sean Bean, so I'm gonna.
Oh yeah.
I mean, who's not into Sean Bean?
Yeah, who's not?
Yorkshire's finest. So I'll start with Sean Bean. I'll dig into Sean Bean.
Yeah. Better than Snorlando, am I right?
or Blando.
I've got a delicious Bundaberg ginger beer as well for this stream.
Not sponsored by
Not
this
sponsored
particular. Other ginger beers are available.
Yeah, in fact, we are sponsored by one.
Did they do a ginger beer?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. This stream's probably not specifically sponsored by them, so it's fine.
Yeah. This is not a pre-recorded video, and therefore we will not give them a shout out. But delicious.
Let's shake up some Vampire Red.
Oh yeah.
It seems to be the closest I can find to Boromir's undercloak.
Okay. So what I've basically done is, so the theme is like really deep midnight blue with like really bright vibrant oranges. But for the peasants that follow them, I wanted them to look a bit less impressive. So they've got like a grey cloak as like the main primary colour, and then they've got like sort of hits of blue and orange instead. But I was killing time whilst I was waiting for an appointment on the weekend, and I went into the local Warhammer shop and got some shades as well, because I needed a refill on Nuln Oil, because as you can probably imagine, half of it spilt all over the table last time I checked. But I also got some Drakenhof Nightshade, which is a really deep blue wash, which is could be handy for this, I think.
Very nice.
Which I do not have any of yet. Yeah, so it's the first time I've used this one. But I think the way I got this sort of dark blue is I started with this colour that he's already got here, and then just washed it down with some Nuln Oil. So that's what I'm going to go for right now. Let's just hope.
See, on the bottle, this Vampire Red, I thought, Vampire Red, I assume that's going to be like bright, blood red.
Yeah.
But on the bottle, it looked more of a maroon, but actually it's coming out very red. So I'm going to need to dampen this down into a burgundy.
Burgundy.
Okay. And hey, if you're in the chat and you've got any questions, let us know. Or you just want to let us know how you're doing, do that too.
Yeah, let us know what you're doing today if you're hobbying along with us. We usually say as well, if you want to show us anything, use the hashtag DicePainter on Twitter. Sorry to anyone who professionally paints dice for a living, but we're nicking that one. So
look, we couldn't get at Dicebreaker on Twitter, so
yeah,
it all
swings around. It's the circle of life.
Yes, the circle of internet life. A terrifying thing.
So yeah, I'm going to use this Nuln Oil wash just to go over the blues and the grey and darken them down a little bit because they're quite bright at the moment.
Yeah, to be fair, when I wash this, it'll probably just naturally
absolutely
take on a darker hue, so I might just wash it with a bit of the heavier ink.
So what paints do you use, Matt?
I use Army Painter paints.
So I assume so because of Vampire Red, because I remember seeing that. Have you seen the speed paints they're releasing soon? Yeah,
they're kind of the rival to Games Workshop's contrast paints, right?
Yeah.
So they kind of have, well, it's not like they've got ink mixed in with them, but they aim for a similar effect of trying to give better depth with a single coat.
Yeah, I think it is literally like some kind of mix of two different consistencies of paint. And the idea is that as it dries, the sort of sediment or whatever rises to the top a little bit and just sort of hits against the hard edges, and then the sort of inky, washy part of it sort of slides into the crevices like you would expect a wash to. And then it's also like a bit of base paint in there as well. I don't know if that's exactly how it works, but it's essentially how it looks when you finish.
Yeah,
so you kind of get like 3 layers of colour all from one paint.
Yeah, which in concept sounds fantastic. I've heard. Have you used contrast paints? Because I've heard mixed things.
So I've not used either of them. I watched a sort of like preview video that Dana Howell did, who is a very good YouTube mini painter, and she sort of was leaning towards the fact that like contrast paints are good if you know how to use them and like know which ones are like the most reliable and which ones need a little bit more help, because I think the general idea is that like some of them are a little bit dodge, but some of them work really, really well. But with the sort of like comparisons that she did with the colours that she was sent, she had a pretty resounding opinion that the speed paints came out on top, and also were just like obviously like half the price because they're not Games Workshop.
Yes. Which they announced this week. The Games Workshop is putting up their prices.
They are indeed,
but not on paints. Interesting enough, not on paints or brushes or anything like that. But on.
I don't think you physically can hike those prices anyway.
So. I need like a really dark green, I think, for Boromir's jacket. It's like it's almost black, but it's not quite. I think it's like a very, very dark green.
Again, you could start with a brighter green and dye it down.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to, because I've only got kind of like the green skin, which is like a darkish green. It's either that or goblin green, which is very, very green.
Yeah. Aaron Breakfast says, I paint exclusively in contrast paint. I love it. Well,
wow.
Have a look out for speed paint, because that might be your thing. I think the idea of contrast paint is to sort of like break down a couple of the barriers that the sort of miniatures like hobby in general has, because some people just don't like painting, which is absolutely fine.
Yeah.
But if you don't like painting, then like there is a significant step that you have to get through before you can sort of have a satisfying game of miniatures with people, because otherwise it's just loads of grey plastic bumping up against each other.
Well, you might be more like me, and I kind of do like a coat or two, but I'm not spending hours and hours on one miniature a lot of the time.
Yeah, I think even then, like I think
happy with the broad strokes.
The point is that you can do that, and they'll still look like you've put enough effort into them, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like I think it sort of bridges the gap between people who are spending loads of time and people who want them to look decent but just don't have the time to commit to it. Which I think it's in general it's just a good thing,
Yeah, for sure. I saw Robert Solberg asked, "Did you prime the minis first? If so, paint on or spray? I'm new to painting. I sprayed mine. I think just with like a not like a specialized spray. It was just a grey.
Yeah, my biggest tip for mini painting is like spray, absolutely, because in general you just get like a nicer undercoat. It's nice and thin and like even. But don't buy official miniature paint sprays.
Yeah.
Like if you just get like a white matte primer that you can get for like a car or something. Like,
yes, I think that's exactly what I've got.
Yeah,
like you say, you want to make sure it's matte, because otherwise it's gonna. The whole point is to take the glossiness away from the plastic, so that the paint sticks to it.
But it literally, they cost like I like some of the ones that I've got are literally from Poundland, and they are the exact same. Like there is absolutely no difference.
I think mine was also a few pennies.
I've seen like a sort of, again, another miniatures YouTuber was sort of like trying to demystify it and be like, you don't need to spend a tenner on Corax White to prime your minis. And I think he was talking about the fact that like he sees people get worried, like, I've spent all this money and time building these miniatures, I don't want to put crappy paint on them. And he was like, if you think that like your miniatures are more of an investment than someone's car, you might be slightly misguided. Like they're obviously going to be of good enough quality that someone would put it on their thousands and thousands of pound car, like they'll probably be fine on like a couple of quid of miniatures.
Yeah, and it's always worth saying with with almost all miniatures, if you get to a point where you're like, oh, like I primed it a little too thick, or even you've finished painting it up and you've decided that you want to kind of give it an overhaul, you can always kind of bring it back to the original plastic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not a permanent thing ever.
You can do it with sort of like fairy liquid or something. Like
I think it's something like that.
There are certain
White
sort of
Spirit
detergents
as well, maybe. I can't remember.
I think White Spirit will melt them, maybe.
Oh yeah, maybe White Spirit is a bit harsh, isn't it?
But I think there is just like a sort of detergent or something like that you can get, and you just dunk it in a sort of vat of the stuff with some water, and just leave it overnight or something, and then it just scrubs off with a toothbrush. So if you're really desperate to start again, like it's pretty chill. So Hugh the X Angel, Matt, I don't know if you're more qualified to answer this than I am. Hugh the X Angel asks, okay, for Matt Jarvis and Wheels if he has an opinion. There we go. I do not, I'm afraid. But
Wheels always has an opinion.
Well, I don't have an opinion on something I've literally got, like, I wouldn't be able to answer. So, favourite Silmarillion character?
You know what? I am not a big Silmarillion person.
Oh, well, there we go.
Sorry. I think I've read it maybe once or twice. I own it, but it's been a long time, so I am actually not as qualified to speak on Silmarillion at the moment. Sorry, but I appreciate the confidence in me that I've betrayed. But
yeah, I don't know if it really has the same cultural relevance, unfortunately, which means it's a little bit more niche.
I know that there is what's the love story? There's like a very classic love story in Tolkien, which I think is on Tolkien's grave. Actually, it references like Tolkien and his wife. It references the two kind of lovers at the center of a lot of the lore. I can't remember who they are. You know what? Recently, I've actually been looking at the kind of more expansive. I mean, even that on top of what is already the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit, but the more expansive kind of Middle Earth stuff. A lot of it was Christopher Tolkien, because I've not, like I say, I've read the Silmarillion maybe once, maybe twice, but many years ago.
Well, we've got the TV show incoming as well, haven't we?
Yeah, I just haven't touched the many books that have followed that are, I think, largely based on just notes of J.R.R. Tolkien, and then Christopher Tolkien took those and wrote them up into full-on stories. I think very few, existed in any kind of finished state beforehand. I might be speaking out of turn.
Okay, there we go. I'm also using a new wet palette, by the way, that I bought. Which is Army Painter, actually, I think. But I just I often make my own out of, the classic takeaway lid and, kitchen roll and greaseproof paper. But they're always just a bit dodge. Whereas this has, like, foam that holds the water underneath, so it can get really, really wet. But also just, like, pre-cut, really flat sheets of paper that just stick onto it. So it's just really, really smooth and nice, which makes it a lot easier to work with.
For those watching, Wheels, who aren't entirely sure what a wet palette does or why you would need one, do you mind briefly explaining?
Thanks for asking, Matt. I'd love to. A wet palette, so obviously a palette is just something that you put your paint on when you're not like putting it on the canvas or the miniature or whatever it is you're painting. So the classic one that people know is like the Bob Ross style, like
hole for your thumb.
Yeah, oval with a cut out of it for your arm and then a hole for your thumb. But normally you can just put your paint on whatever. But the problem with acrylic, or rather the reason we use acrylic for miniatures, is because it dries very quickly, which means that we can just sort of paint right over it with second coats and all that kind of stuff. Really, really smart. But if you work with stuff like oil paint, for example, that stays wet forever. But the point is, pardon me, the paint stays wet so that you can really like maneuver it whilst it's still on the canvas. So even, like 30 minutes after you've applied something, you're still pushing it around and sort of like sculpting with it. But acrylics dry so quick, which means that if you've got a palette where you're keeping your paint, it's only going to be useful for so long before it just dries out completely. You can't really use it anymore. A wet palette is essentially, it's like paper that very, very loosely allows water through it without actually becoming wet itself, which allows your paint that sits on top of it to just sort of absorb the water underneath, which is in this case foam, but usually like tissue paper or something like that. And therefore it just stays wet. So you can keep using the same little dollop of paint for like the next hour or two. And with this one, it comes with a lid as well, so you can literally just shove the lid on, tie it up, come back the next day, and the paint's still fresh. Like it's really, really useful. And you do all that without actually adjusting like the consistency of the paint itself. So when you apply it to the miniature, you might as well have just been applying it, with a dab of water straight out the pot. It's really, really, really handy. And it's definitely one of those things where if you've been painting minis for a little bit and you're wondering of like little tips that will just sort of improve your workflow a little bit, that is one that I would recommend straight away, because it is just something that means you can just be a lot more freeform with how you paint, because especially for people like me with ADHD, I get bored quickly. So if I'm painting a big surface, one colour, I just get like tired about halfway through. I can just leave that paint sitting there whilst I work on something else and then come back to it. So I'll just be like, oh, I'm bored of painting this axe now. I'll go paint this for a bit. And when I come back, that paint's still ready for me. It's really, really useful.
It's worth saying as well that you can buy some at all kinds of budget ranges. You can just make one. There are a number of good tutorials on YouTube.
Yeah.
How to make a good wet palette.
Yeah, I bought one because I'm not very good at making them, rather than it being too hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's also just a nice little thing. It's got a little brush holder in it and stuff as well, which is nice.
Ooh.
But I've gotten to that point now where I think if you do a hobby enough, like you should learn to just sort of treat yourself a little bit and just give you the sort of resources and tools and stuff to just make it more pleasant of a process. Because if you do it often enough, eventually, like, it's worth investing in, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like anything, right? It's like if it's costing you time, like sometimes it's worth investing a little bit of money if you can do so. In the case of something like a wet palette, to just let you concentrate on what you want to do.
Because you get paid back with fun and pleasant times.
Oh, his sleeves are red as well, aren't they?
Baron Breakfast says Wills has a very relaxing voice. He's our very own Bob Ross. I don't think that Matt's got a very relaxing voice as well.
Thank you. I am often told that my personal vibe is like nervous energy, so that's kind of you'd say.
I think that's not necessarily untrue.
Oh no, it certainly is true. Yeah,
but that doesn't mean you're not capable of range,
Make me sound very actorly.
And I welcome you back to In the Actors Studio with Matt Jarvis.
Now, is it In the Actors Studio the real one, or is that the Peter Serafinowicz one?
I'm not sure. Because there's also what's the what's the Mitchell and Webb sketch where they do the like behind the scenes movies bits?
Oh yeah, I can't remember, but I know the one you mean.
Like silver screen something or whatever. Oh god. Oh. The only problem with this hobby is my back absolutely caved after it. Ugh.
It's the first time I painted in this room as well, and so I'm kind of learning where the light is around me, which is an interesting.
We've got a lamp here. The problem is, as soon as we do that, because I've got this big box, like it takes up the whole desk and also overspills over the desk. So I'm basically like penned in. So if I want to do anything, then it takes a considered amount of effort.
Like those desks that they used to use at schools where it flaps down in front of you.
Yeah.
We had one teacher who used those in his classroom because he was like a very old school kind of very eccentric kind of Dead Poet Society style English literature teacher. called Mr. Black Hawkins, and he used to sit in a big armchair and very loudly bark Shakespeare at you. Which was, to be honest, perfect, because you kind of want that eccentric like passion for something in a teacher. Like,
yeah, especially
many bad teachers who were just like
don't care,
cynical and jaded.
I think the big problem with teaching Shakespeare as well is the fact that it's not supposed to be read, which I think really turns a lot of people off from it.
Yes, yeah. So instead we watched like the VHS tape of Chimes at Midnight with Orson Welles.
Yeah, I'll see if the orange comes up a bit more bright when I put it down on the palette.
You know what? This vampire red has kind of faded into a much darker red. It's quite nice. It's
oh yeah, no, that's a lovely color.
Yeah, it's not.
It's like
I
my
thought
t-shirt.
It was going to be very blood red, but it's actually faded into, I think, just about the right color. Once I wash it, I think it'll be right there.
Yeah, I've got two reds in here. One is a blood red, which I think is that kind of tone. And then the other's more like a sort of bright kind of Clifford the Big Red Dog style.
He is big and he is red.
He's very red.
And
he was unfortunately in that film.
The live action one.
Yeah. Was it Jack Whitehall, was it? God.
Probably.
Yeah, is that orange a bit easy to pick up now? It's quite...
Oh, that's nice orange. Yeah.
It's quite vibrant.
It's very popping a bit more off the palette there, yeah.
Very sort of tango vibes.
Yeah, or Tizer was red, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Tizer the red on Tizer head. His for American audience. Actually, was Tizer an American import into the UK? Probably. It had the vibe of an American drink because it was
just sugar and color.
Radioactive color.
Yeah, no, this is more Iron Brew than Tizer.
And it had like a oh God. It's the guy that took over like MTV.
Oh, Max Headroom.
Yeah, Max Headroom style. I mean, that was when a lot of adverts were doing that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just like, whoa, it's the 90s. Look how wild this drink is.
The problem is we are, much as the fashion has come back to 90s, adverts are also just obsessed with trying to weird you out to the point where they're just exhausting.
Yeah, now that it's just, everything's trying to be a meme, right? Everything's just going for viral. Like, people just share it and be like, oh, this is so weird, but they're engineered to be that way rather than being an organic thing that people, share because it's interesting rather than share because it's been designed to be shared.
They just never understand it,
No. Oh, yeah. Sean, you're looking fine. He's got red sleeves.
John Cleese is also in that movie, although I've lost all respect for that man, so...
Oh, yeah. Yes, well.
So I don't really care if he's in a terrible film. I think that's a fate that he's brought upon himself.
Old white men fading into obscurity. It's
I just can't
truly one of the trends of our time. Just shouting loudly about how they're being cancelled.
No one watched my Clifford movie. I'm being cancelled.
I see that we just had up on the website. I see. I mean, I know that it was going up, but for the purpose of this video, Wills, I've just seen that we put up a list of RPGs and board games to play if you're looking forward to the Uncharted movie, which I forgot was coming out this week.
Oh God, is that coming out this week?
Alex, me, and I were discussing it in the context of this very list.
I can't believe Mark Wahlberg's in that film.
Yeah, I mean, another person that is long past his due.
I kind of get Tom Holland's being a sort of young. Like,
yeah.
I'm not married to the franchise as a whole anyway. Like,
I like it, but I don't. Is it anybody's favorite franchise?
I don't think
like
so.
It's one of those things that people really like, but I've never heard anyone be like, "It's my favorite thing in the world." No one's out there getting Sully's moustache tattooed on them.
Yeah, I remember when I was my first games job. I was working at Inkle, who make
80 days.
80 Days and Sorcery, and have recently put out that Overboard game.
Yeah, it's very good. I really like Overboard. It's fantastic.
And they were like talking about Uncharted 4, and they were like, I mean, it's the perfect game, isn't it? And I was like, is it really the perfect game? Like, I don't agree with that at all.
I feel like it's like they are technically and allegedly at the cost of the developers' well-being and so on. They are technically very impressive, and they do big action. They're kind of like the Marvel movies of video games, right? It's like they're very flashy. They are very enjoyable for what they are, but they don't really leave a lasting impression. Like, I've played all of them, and I remember really enjoying them, but I've never been like, that's going to be the top of my all-time list.
Like, I've played, I think, like 2 or 3 of them. And if someone told me, like, what was your favourite moment, or asked me rather, I can't really think of anything.
It's the train sequence in Uncharted 2. It's the one that everyone remembers.
But even then, like, that's literally the opening of the game. Like, it's not really that big a deal in the grand scheme of the game. And even then, like, if you look back at it now, I know obviously it's, looking at things with hindsight, it's always going to look a little bit worse, but it is literally just sort of like going in a straight line.
They are very linear. I think actually the best Uncharted game is Lost Legacy, the kind of spin-off they did with Chloe
open,
and is it Chloe and Elena? And it had like open world kind of aspects to it, and also it was much shorter.
Yeah,
so I feel like it managed to pack all of the stuff in, and not outstay its welcome. It is like that's a really fun game, but again, I was never like, this will change gaming. It was just like, yeah, this is a good one of these. Yeah, I'm having a fun time. All right, time to move on.
The thing that always messes me up with Uncharted is that sort of like the degree of mass murder that happens in those games, considering like the stakes at hand, is very weird.
Yeah, well, I think that's a video game. It's narrative dissonance, right? But yeah, it's the same with a lot of action movies where they just, even Marvel things, where they destroy entire like cityscapes and don't really question the fact that, later on they get a bit meta about it, but
I think that's a thing. But also, like, there's also the fact that in those Marvel movies, the implication is that they're saving the world. So it's like, it's the cost of like beating the villain, and like the villain chose to fight here and all that kind of stuff. Whereas with Uncharted, it's like, I need to find the gold coin, and I'm going to
snap this guy's neck for this like shiny jewel.
I'm going to murder 400 mercenaries to get there. It's very weird. Oh, I'll tell you what, Matt. If you like ginger beer, you should really try one of those.
I love ginger beer, Wills. I genuinely do love ginger beer.
Well, they sell them in Tesco, so
I'm a big fan of. Is it Krabby's? Krabby's is a good ginger beer.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean. Ooh, can I remember which shade of grey I used?
I'm gonna say no.
Huh. Was it? I mean, it might be
which
dark
shade of grey.
There is one called dark grey. I'm assuming it's that. What were you saying, sorry?
No, sorry, I was referencing the song "Fade to Grey," but it's by Singing Shade of Grey, which, for the one person out there who got it, you're welcome.
Don't know what you're talking about.
There's a song called "Fade to Grey"
by.
Well, now I knew you were going to ask me this. I was going to say it's Ultravox, but it's not Ultravox. I can't remember. It was from the 80s. I'm pretty sure it would have been on the soundtrack to like Ashes to Ashes or Life on Mars.
Okay.
One of those. Because for a while that was my taste in music when I was about like Visage, yeah. a different V band. Yeah, for a while when I was about, I don't know, 11 or 12, my musical taste could probably just be summarized as the soundtrack to Life on Mars and Ashes to Ashes.
Did I ever send you that video I made when I was at a castle?
I don't think you did.
I remember sending it to Johnny. I can't remember if I sent it to you, but it was we had just me and Zoe had gone for a sort of picnic lunch outside a castle, like one of those sort of heritage parks kind of things, and the place, like the little farmers market shop we had gotten our lunch from, was called what was it? It was Eggs to Ashes or something like that. It was a really weird name that sounded like Ashes to Ashes. But I ended up singing it. It was looking at the label, it was eggs eggs to ashes, and then just faded up and went, "We're eating lunch outside a castle." And it was just great content, Matt. It's great content. It's really fantastic when I'm describing it over the internet rather than just showing it to you at all. Which
I mean, this is much of our friendship is built on you describing Vine videos to me as I go, "What?
Huh?
Huh?
Who?
Oh, Vine? Is it on TikTok?"
It's not on TikTok, but it would be a perfect fit for TikTok. I will say that.
Eggs to Ashes it's not even enough syllables. That's really upset me.
It might have been eggs to apples or something.
That still doesn't work. Apples to apples would work. Apples to apples, fruit to fruity.
I can't remember what it was called. We could probably find it on Google Maps because I know where the castle was. But it was a great video, Matt. You should have been there.
What, at the castle, just behind you?
No, just on the receiving end of my WhatsApp video.
Well, you've only got yourself to blame, Wills.
Yeah, no, that's true.
You could have sent it to me.
Is that a different material?
I'm doing the cloak in black first.
Because
it's a very dark... Well, that's the thing. It's I'm looking at pictures, and
it does look... you got a photo reference?
Yeah, I mean, it does look. It's kind of I think it's very, very, very dark green.
Yeah.
And then the kind of overcoat is black, but it's kind of, because it's quite a glossy fabric or textile. In a lot of the photos, it doesn't look as black because it's reflecting the light. So it might be a case of needing to highlight it a bit.
I think it was Ashes to Ashes, Eggs to Apples.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Outside a castle. I think that's what it was.
Oh yeah, that works. That would have been good content, Wills.
Thank you. It was. It was just private content. only for my inner circle.
Wow.
By which I mean the one person I sent it to, presumably.
That's less of a circle, more of just a line or a dot, I suppose.
Yeah. Speaking of the inner circle, just watched The Last of Dynamite over lunch as well.
Oh, AEW.
AEW. Had some big moments. I saw a lot of people calling it one of the best Dynamite episodes that they've ever aired.
Ooh.
Which is pretty bold, but not far off, I reckon. Do you know Keith Lee?
I do not.
Do you know I used to watch NXT?
Yeah, I did, but it doesn't mean I remember all their names.
Yeah, that's fair. Keith Lee was the bask in his glory man. Very, very big dude. He's 350 pounds.
Wow.
Or at least that's what Jim Ross kept shouting anyway.
Yeah, well, Jim Ross's grasp on mathematics is, as Botchamania has told me, sometimes questionable.
Steiner-esque. William Adam McDuff says, "Oh, Frostgrave. Slowly working on Space Dinos for Stargrave myself."
Ooh, I've not yet read through the Stargrave stuff.
Yeah.
Frostgrave I know quite a bit about, but we have a copy of Stargrave in the office, I believe.
Oh, do we?
Yeah, because it's just a book.
We've got, well, yeah, no, I know it is, but we've got enough 40k miniatures that we could probably
This
play
is true,
if we
yeah.
want to.
We're inundated with 40k. I'd be very interested. Stargrave has some kind of, I think they introduced like more of a narrative aspect to it. From what I remember, is you can kind of you can manage your crew between skirmishes.
That's in Frostgrave.
Like that. Maybe they've just, I don't know, maybe they've expanded or revised it a little bit. I just remember it being one of the things they were kind of touting before it came out. But I don't even have a copy here, actually. Maybe it's my copy in the office. I can't see a copy here. But I've not unpacked everything yet, so it might be floating around.
Yeah, that's fair. Matt has recently moved house.
I have, yes.
Which is why I've
been painting walls rather than miniatures.
Yeah. You've moved all of 5 minutes walk away or whatever.
It's more like 10 minutes drive, but...
Oh, okay.
Yes, we're still in roughly the same area of Cambridgeshire.
Cambridgeshire?
But it's been very nice, and one of my closest friends, one of the best men at our wedding, funnily enough, moved 5 minutes away.
Oh, beautiful!
The week before, so they were in, and then we were in.
I was playing VR with my oldest friend last night, who will likely be the best man at my wedding.
Oh.
But we played. He was like, "I'm skint, so if we're gonna buy anything, it has to be really cheap." So we looked at like the real cheap stuff on the Oculus Quest because we were playing VR together. And there's one called Vrisis Brigade, like Crisis but spelt with VR at the front.
Oh god, okay.
And it is brilliant. Like, it's cheap as hell. Like, you can tell it's like Unity store assets, but it's so much fun. Because it's basically like a rip off of Time Crisis, but in VR.
Okay, so light gun style.
Yeah, but instead of like being at a machine with a pedal, you physically have to jump behind the cover when the thing starts.
Oh, that's great.
We were exhausted by the end of it.
I bet. I absolutely love those kinds of like gun shooters.
Yeah.
Like a number of years ago, I just tried to find a light gun. But the problem is, light guns don't work very well on modern TVs because they were designed to work on CRT, so the way they identify the pixels is different. So with some of them, you have to do some kind of extra steps to get them to work. But yeah, I just love them. I remember coming back from, I think it was like a year 7 French trip, and my parents had kind of given me some money to go out and spend on whatever. I think actually, funnily enough, the gift I brought back to my mum from my school French trip was a French copy of Shrek 2, which I decided this will be a great gift. So yeah, like genuinely, that was what I brought back as a souvenir.
It's like Marge receiving the Homer bowling ball rather as the present.
Yeah. But all the remaining money I had, having spent it graciously on Shrek 2, I probably had about £5 left. And I just remember on the ferry playing one of the Time Crises, maybe 4, with a friend, and just slotting in pound coins because the ferry accepted pound coins.
Yeah, my mate is a huge Time Crisis fan. Like, he used to absolutely rinse them in the arcades. So when I found that, I was like, "Oh, this is perfect."
It's one of the best things about VR is the kind of rebirth of that genre, because it really seemed to go away, but VR is just so perfect for it.
Well, it's also like one of the biggest sort of problems currently with VR is the amount of people who are like starting it and are not used to it and are getting sick. Which is something you can actually like get over relatively fast if you play a lot of it. But if you're only dipping in and out, like it's tough to manage. So if you've got a game that doesn't actually require you to move around, like when you move from scene to scene, it just sort of like blinks from like point to point. So it's like it's really not very taxing. which means if you're prone to motion sickness in VR, like it's very, very chill. So I reckon that's probably why that genre is good one for people to start with. Because locomotion's always been a bit of an issue. But I think now that people are getting used to it, they are literally just doing stick movement. Like that's most of the game.
Yeah, funnily enough, I was working in video games journalism when VR was really taking off. And a lot of the discussion, I worked for a magazine called Develop for a while, which was aimed at developers. So a lot of the discussion then was exactly how to solve that problem of motion in VR without getting people sick.
Yeah.
I remember I went out to the launch of the Vive, the Steam one, out in Seattle. It was a 48-hour trip, which was pretty rough. But we went into basically this warehouse, and they had a load of developers showing off their games. And I'd never used a VR headset before. And the Vive it uses like the room, it like makes a little cube that you can walk around in.
Yeah.
But the first game, so you kind of cycled through the different games, like had half an hour on each one to give you a taster. The first one I went on, I can't remember what it was called, but it was this game where you have these kind of like rafts, like kind of scrapyard rafts, that you ride on, and you kind of ride them around and you try to defeat your opponents. It was pretty fun, but the problem was that because it was a game based about you stand on this raft thing and then you move around on it in this arena. The first time it moved, my body adjusted to try and counteract the fact that I was moving. But of course, I was just stood in the middle of a warehouse. I wasn't actually moving. So I just fell flat on my arse in front of the developer, which was very embarrassing. And then,
you don't get the dignity when you do a VR press trip.
No, you really do not.
But I very much I think for like the start of VR, it has been that kind of onboarding process of like making it as accessible as possible for people who aren't used to it. But I do think as it becomes more of a common thing, which I do think it will, whilst there will still be those options there for people who are new to it, or like if you play VR enough, and like I got really, really obsessed with it when I first started, so I was playing it like every day. Like if you play it enough, you literally just don't feel anything anymore because it's just your brain getting used to it. Like as soon as it's like, oh, this isn't real, I understand what's happening now. Like you just don't really feel it anymore. The only I will say I played Boneworks.
It's like a kind of a sandbox game, right? Where
it's got that functionality. It's like it's very inspired by Half-Life 2. But the premise is that you are like a cybersecurity agent in this it's like a sort of dystopian vaporwave metaverse. And you are like walking through the wreckage of it, trying to like reset the world or something because everything's gone to hell. And it's run by like this crappy 80s company. But the sort of main selling point of the game is that it's full free locomotion. So you not only can just move around however you want, but also like you have a proper virtual body. And it was kind of the first one to do it like that. Which meant that like if you were climbing around, like you could see like your arms getting stuck on stuff, so you would have to like readjust and all that kind of thing. So you like it was one of the most like physics-based simulations of movement that they'd kind of seen so far when it came out.
Yeah,
it's a bit more common now. But because it's proper locomotion, that means like you can end up doing stuff that makes you feel very ill. So I'd gotten really used to it by the time that I was playing, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm feeling pretty confident. And then there's this bit where you have to like catapult yourself over this huge gap, and then like because there's no fall damage, you just drop like I think it's like 50 meters at some point. And I looked down as I was falling, and I was like, oh god.
Yeah,
it was the most sick I'd ever felt in VR.
Falling in VR or like looking over edges is like very as someone that has a very bad fear of heights, it's not a good time.
Well, I think it's also because like when you're walking around in VR, like your body obviously knows that you're not walking
because you can feel that your body is static. Whereas when you're falling, like there's no sensory information that you get from falling apart from
you're not in control of the movement, right?
Yeah, so it's like it's very much just sort of like your brain going, wait, what? No, what? I've just realised I've got like a little bit of tab of plastic on his foot here that I need to get rid of.
Oh.
Which means I'm going to be back in 2 seconds as I get some clippers.
Alrighty.
Oh, wait, no, actually. Oh, don't worry about it. Got my little toolbox here, haven't I? Don't worry about it. I've got some here.
Look at that. True pro.
Got some here. Yeah, there we go.
There's a few folks chatting about Wordle in the chat, Wills. Are you a wordler?
Oh, you know this. I made a Wordle.
Yeah.
It's free, so it's not... There's nothing wrong with talking about it, right? As far as I'm aware. But yeah, no, I love Wordle. I made an infinite Wordle called Wieldle. But the reason I made that is because like a lot of my hobbies now are monetized, which isn't. It's usually like the death of a hobby is to monetize it, right? Because it's like, oh, I like painting miniatures, but also we do that for work. So like at times it feels like work. And I like, RPGs and stuff like that, but also, I kind of do that as my own work thing. So like there's a lot of things that I do where it's just like, for a while it was playing video games as well when I was doing streaming and things like that. It's just like, I need something that I do just for me, just because I like doing it. Because otherwise I'm just going to be constantly working, which is not good for your brain.
Yeah, that's my problem. Is like I work too much as it is, so it's like as soon as I get out of it, it's like I am not going to do anything. But then it's that horrible capitalist mindset of like I'm not being productive anymore.
Wasting my time.
Yeah.
So when I picked up video game development, like just coding, it was very much like I'm not going to allow myself to ever make this like a project that is for other people. Like I can release things, that's fine. Like I put out that free Wordle thing and I see all the comments of people being like, oh, there's this bug, or like, this word shouldn't be in there, or this word should be in there. And I'm like, okay, well, it's free. So get over it, essentially.
That's fair enough.
But yeah, also the reason I did that is because I wanted to make, which I'm still in the process of making, like a dungeon crawler where you fight monsters by playing Wordle, which is what I'm currently working on now, which is really fun. But I haven't touched it in a while because, again, I started replying to people's bug fix stuff on itch, and I was like, no, this is becoming work, so I'm going to sit down for a bit and I'm not going to do it until I stop working. But yeah, it's important. Make art because it's fun and we are humans, not because you want to like build a career off of it.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the things about it's like now I spend my days writing, so it's like writing used to be my hobby. Like that's what I used to do in my spare time at uni. I was like writing for the newspaper or writing poems of all things. I was a very English lit student. Sorry.
Yeah. Because you like doing it though, right? Like
exactly, yeah.
And then as soon as you have to do something for monetary gain, it does just sort of like really tamper with your enjoyment of it.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, like I love my job and I wouldn't change it for the world. But
absolutely,
it's very much changed my relationship to writing and making things. Whereas like I used to just do it all the time in my spare time, but now it is my work time. So I get to the end of the day, I'm like, I want to do literally anything else. I just want to turn my brain off for a bit.
I think this is one of the biggest misconceptions people have about game journalism is like, at some point, you have to remember that people are doing a job, which means that even if they are having fun at some point, they're still working, which means that even if like you look at it and you're like, oh, well, this is a dream job, like you're just sitting around playing games. It's like, no, we're not. We're really not.
We literally have discussions where we're like, we're not playing any games. It's like, we make concerted efforts sometimes to just get together and play stuff because actually we're so busy with the work bit of it all. Like video production is hugely time consuming. Writing news stories is hugely time consuming. Like the team work incredibly hard. But it means that actually the bit where you just get to play games is not that much.
Yeah.
But then that risks then bleeding over into your personal time.
Yeah.
And again, then you hit the what's work, what isn't.
Yeah, and then but also like we need to play games to be
exactly,
because we're critics, right? We have to be able to talk about the things that we're talking about. We can't do that if we haven't played anything. So yeah, it's
Boromir, what color is your belt?
Brown.
It's a good assumption. I think it is brown. This very pixelated picture. That doesn't look like.
Are you working off someone else's paint job, or are you working off a picture?
No, I'm working off like the movie. Yeah.
Okay.
Like, but I just clicked on a picture, and it does not look like Boromir. It's quite granulated, but it looks more like Denethor. But it says that I think it's a toy, like an action figure.
Oh, okay.
But they've done Sean Bean dirty here.
How could you?
Yeah, it's one of the things as well. So I play guitar and have played guitar, gosh, almost for like 20 years now.
Yeah.
And I'm not especially good at guitar. When I was younger, I poured all my time into it. So I would like learn Dragon Force, even though I wasn't a big Dragon Force fan, just because I was like, I'm going to do this. But I've never been like a big soloer or anything like that. I just kind of, I know my chords and I can play the occasional solo, but I'm also a terrible like perfectionist.
Yeah.
So, which I think, leads into this kind of work where you're trying to spot mistakes and make your copy clean and all of that kind of thing. But it then gets to the point where when I play guitar, I end up feeling very frustrated because like, well, I either can play this on first time or I can't play at all.
Yeah.
But I don't have the time anymore as an adult to sink into just playing the same song again and again and again. So it's like I end up just playing by sight a lot of the time.
That was a big thing for me was, again, like I was a music student to degree level, right?
Oh yeah, I forgot you did music.
I did a music tech degree. Part of that was a performance module. Like I've got grade 8s in guitar, all that kind of stuff. Like I used to be absolutely all in on music. Like I think if you asked me at a certain age what I was going to do with my life, I think it would have been music. But not only did I absolutely despise my degree, and just like it just killed all joy of it on the sort of technology side of things, but also being in a band in uni and like going through the drudgery that is like being a small band and touring and all that kind of stuff, which is just horrendous sometimes.
I bet.
Yeah, it just murdered music for me. Like I just like when people are like, "Oh, do you want to go see a gig?" It's like I don't want to ever be in a music venue for the rest of my life. Oh god. But yeah, like I've still got my guitars. I still play them every now and again. But I will say, like again, with that little Wordle project that I was working on, like it gave me an excuse to just get like on a little 8-bit music machine thing and just start making some little tunes for the background for it and stuff. And like, I remembered how nice it is to compose music, but also it's just like, apart from those little dips into it where I'm just sort of, just stretching my toes out a bit rather than actually like really getting headfirst into writing, it just, messes me up.
Yeah, I would say when we did the Taskmaster or Taskbreaker video, that was fun. It was like, oh yeah, like I used to write songs and I just mess around and stuff, and it was nice to just like do it for a reason, kind of be prompted to do it by something, but not have any kind of expectation attached. And actually, the pressure was kind of off because it's like, well, this is for a silly thing anyway.
It's
so
supposed to be
actually,
funny anyway, right? It's like,
no, now I'm an entertainer rather than a.
There it is.
Toto, Rosie.
Hello. Did anyone in the chat want to tell me that I forgot to update the frame on this stream?
Oh yeah.
This is,
you know what, Wills? That's also what I'm seeing through Google Meet.
Huh?
That's also what I'm seeing through Google Meet, but
yeah. So you've also failed me, Matt.
Yeah, I've been transfixed on this model, and then if I'm not looking at that, I'm looking at your work. So
I can't believe no one's pointing out. I'm scrolling through chat. I can't see anything. Oh well, we're obviously just so captivating that nobody even
that's how it goes.
All right, one sec. Oh god, where even is the free painting stream? The problem is I now need to do this with a huge box in front of me. There we go. Oh god. Oh, god.
This is pretty good likeness of Sean Bean on this model.
Yeah.
Like, you can tell it's Sean Bean when you look at it. The face is quite well sculpted. I mean, obviously Games Workshop. If there's one thing Games Workshop do,
they do very good sculpts.
It's pretty good sculpts.
I think that, but this is the thing. It's like I remember reading or watching or something, like an interview with the people who make Infinity, Casaspelli, and they were talking about the fact that, like, somebody asked, like, why do you do metal miniatures? And the thing is with plastic stuff is, like, to do the kind of plastic, like the grey hard plastic that Games Workshop do, is incredibly expensive unless you're doing it to the scale that they can. So, like, for anyone who doesn't have, like, the pre-established massive customer base, they just can't afford to. Like,
injection molding is... a number of years ago, for a different outlet, I wrote a feature on how miniatures are made, and it was fascinating because they basically did it by hand.
Yeah,
it was Mantic in Nottingham, so they make the Walking Dead game and stuff like that. So you know, they're not a super small company, but most of a lot of the stuff they do is just a person in a room with, you know, molds, popping them out, like pouring stuff into them, because injection molding is so, like you say, like, you have to do it at a scale that is so enormous.
Yeah. I'm just going to put Lord of the Rings. Because that is all my hand can type at this angle. Oh, God. And then... oh, no. I can't see it. Where's the cliffing bars? Oh, God. Jesus. Great cliffing bars. There we go. That'll do.
Thank you for tuning in for Endurance Video Production, as Will's attempts to make the most strenuous changes to the frame.
Oh, God. Yeah, everyone just says I hadn't even noticed.
Well, I mean, that's good in a way, because I suppose at least we're...
That's just how entertaining we are, Matt.
Yeah.
We're just captivating.
With this conversation of the Uncharted movie and my French copy of Shrek 2.
Yeah, I will once again clarify this stream was not sponsored by Steamforged. It has nothing to do with Steamforged. That just happened to be the last thing that was on this PC. Okay. Right, so I've got two little fellas here in the base colours. I'm just... Oh, I need to do his skin on his chin. Let's do...
Oh, yeah, at some point I've got to tackle Sean Bean's goatee.
Oh, mate. Good luck with that one. Let's do some
dark. The pressure's on.
Hello, Skull and Boots. How's everyone doing, by the way? If you have been using the hashtag, let us know. I'm going to go on to hashtag Dicebreaker and see what's going on. Again, if I can find the key. There it is. No.
Or just add us at Join Dicebreaker.
Yeah, or just add us.
Just get up in our mentions, you know?
Get right up on there. Dice Painter. Let's see what everyone's doing. Show us your hobby if you're up to it. Wavy says, my current whip for Dice Painter relaxation hours. Looking good, Wavy. Got a lovely bit of illustration going on.
Oh yeah, people who can draw, I am forever in awe.
Thank you, Healy. Skull and Boots says, I'm getting some paint out to paint a bit more of my jacket. That's cool.
Ooh.
A little bit of fabric painting. Oh, this... Okay. This paint is very separated because I've not used it very often because I avoid painting skin at all costs. Oh, God.
That's better.
Painting Boromir's rim. The rim of the shield.
Matt Jarvis. It's a family stream.
The One Ring.
Oh, ring.
Is not in Boromir's possession at this point.
Right, got it. I heard rim, which is why I was...
I am painting the rim of his shield, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
Oh, you
I don't know what you heard, Wills, but...
Look, you're changing your tone here.
I don't have a brush small enough for that.
Depends, really, doesn't it? There we go.
Oh gosh, these edges of the shield are so small.
Yeah, chat agrees with me.
Fel says, I've yet to get back to my paint by numbers art, hoping the paints that came with haven't dried up yet. I would assume that they might, if it's been...
Oh, yeah, I think they're not normally water-based, aren't they?
Yeah, they are notorious for finding them like a month later and they're just like bricks.
My stepmom took up painting by numbers during the pandemic, but she had... It was the most elaborate paint by numbers I've ever seen. Where it was this enormous illustration, and there were hundreds of numbers. But at the end, you create something that looks very impressive compared to the kind of paint by numbers that I've done before. But
yeah, my mum's been doing that gem art stuff. Where you have like a sort of sticky surface and you put tiny little like square plastic gems in different colors on. So it's kind of like a paint by numbers, but it's more like sort of very, very gently like making a mosaic, which is quite fun. Right. Okay.
Once again, Null Noil, please don't spill.
If there's one conspiracy theory that
that you subscribe to,
it's the one that Games Workshop, at the very least, refuse to change the model that makes these pots spill so easily, because then you just buy more, don't you? So I think if you came up to them, they were like, "Hey, bit of feedback. I'm having to pay way more money for all your paints because they keep spilling." I'm not sure their response would be, "Oh, we'll definitely change that as soon as possible."
Yeah, they'll probably be like,
"Oh no,
here's another pot of normal for you. That'll be £6, please." Oh, I feel bad for going quiet, but I'm concentrating so hard on the edge of the shield.
You need to give us a status update. We haven't seen yet for a while. Last
yeah,
the red. It's a process, Matt. It's a process.
Here's a process. So I'm getting there. How's that coming up?
Oh, he's looking good.
Yeah,
very clean.
So you can kind of see the red's in place.
Like Sean Bean. It's a good model.
The shield is there. I've got to do the Horn of Gondor at some point. Yeah, the face is very Sean Beanie.
Yeah.
It's a eeny beanie.
It's like a nice one. I like it.
Thank you. Like I said, these models they're pretty good. I would say the cave trolls, so they're push fit models.
Yeah.
So some of them don't. You can see there's kind of quite a significant gap on the cave troll.
I will say
I could push it, but
like push fits are really good when they work. They look real crap when they don't. Bit of a mixed bag.
Ow. Nads, I knocked my paintbrush into the paint.
Oh dear.
It's okay. Right. I'm pretty sure the middle of his shield there's like a gold edge to the main bit in the middle. So I need to dig out a gold wherever I put gold. Demonic yellow? That is not a gold.
We could do, I think, like, there might be some content in the next time you paint one of these, you have to do it from memory of what they look like in the film.
Oh, there's a good noise. I don't know if that's coming through on the camera, but very wet, kind of like
I'm doing some brush washing ASMR at the moment.
Oh yeah, that's the stuff.
That's what the people pay to see.
Get those brushes clean.
Okay. Right, let's close up that null oil before anything bad happens. There we go. Right. Okay, so I've done the base colours for my two that I'm working on today.
Oh wow!
So they've got
Looking good.
They're orange hoods, with like a sort of nice dark muted grey and blue colour palette, so they don't stand out too much. Because my thought is that this dude who owns their mercenary company is incredibly arrogant and therefore would not let anyone be as brightly coloured as he is. Hence why his apprentice has to wear the opposite. So that's what I'm going with. Well, I also need to actually, before I put that brush away, and before I put the non-oil away, I need to put a wash on. Oh God! So even just opening it spills. God.
This is so small.
Oh, this is Agrak, so he's actually going to have a bit of a rusty one, but that's fine. It's good to have different tones and colours on your unit, so they slightly pop out from each other.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it depends if you want to have like a really uniform faction, I guess. Like if you've got really put together warriors, then they should look real similar. But if you've got a ragtag bunch, it kind of makes sense for them to all have different things going on.
Yeah. I don't play loads of rank and file games generally.
Mm.
I've played a few over the years. I mean, it is very satisfying when you have a load of, like you say, when you've got a load of units that stack together in a neat way. But
I think, like, I remember when I first joined Creative Assembly, they had like a Warhammer room basically that was just full of models, where it was like, we use these for like, 3D artists and all that kind of stuff. So like, if you want to build them, it's fine. Just take some and build them. So I put together like a Skaven unit, and that was the first time I painted anything since I was like 16. And like they were the old square base ones from Warhammer Fantasy.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so I like had them in the block unit, and it was really satisfying, like seeing them all after the amount of work it takes to put them together.
Yeah.
And then I tried to do some Storm Vermin, and I remembered that any unit that has a two-handed weapon is one of the
yeah, they're a nightmare.
Infuriating things to construct. Absolute horrors that come with two-handed weapons.
For me, I had a Tomb King's catapult that was metal that just never wanted to hold together, no matter how much glue I put on it. Hey,
the Screaming Skull.
I don't remember. It was just like a big old catapult thing.
I think they've only got Screaming Skull catapults, which are the ones that fire out literal screaming skulls.
Yeah, that was almost certainly it, but that never held together. So I don't think I was ever able to build it. It was always frustrating. And the other one that never held together was Treebeard.
Oh yeah,
for the Lord of the Rings game. Because I could get like Merry and Pippin would sit on his shoulder, that was fine. And then I'd build his legs, and then you'd start to put the body on top of the legs, and it just never like I could sit there and hold it for like 20 minutes, 40 minutes, but as soon as I let go, crashing down.
Oh mate, there was the sort of yellow monster thing that I painted on, I think the last painting stream that we did in the office. The stomach of him was like this weird. It was like the first bit that you had to build to put them together, and it was like this weird shape where it was like partly mirrored, but it was all covered in creases and stuff. So it was like impossible to tell what direction it was facing in the instructions. So it was just like I don't know how to, like, it wasn't a perfect mirror, so it had to be an exact way, but I just didn't know how to figure out which way it was going. It took me like half an hour. Right, I think what I'm going to do now is oh, that's the wrong set of paints. I'm going to grab the slightly lighter orange that I've got here,
shake it up again. And I'm going to start to do some highlights on their hoods. This is more of a sort of pastel orange. Just very slightly brighter. Oh, why do I keep doing that? Keep pulling out the wrong drawer. There we go. Okay. So I'm trying not to load this brush up too much because I'm doing a highlight, so I don't want it to just paint directly over.
Yeah, that's fair. I think I'm gonna try and paint up the Horn of Gondor next.
It's gonna be a tricky one.
Yeah, it's just kind of like it's a big block of grey at the moment, so it's one of those things where I'm compelled to paint it so that it looks a little more complete.
Is it like hanging on his belt?
Yes, it is. Yeah, he's not blowing it.
That always makes it a little bit harder as well because it's like underneath his arm and stuff.
Yeah, and where it's kind of sculpted, it melds into his belt and his cloak a bit.
Yeah,
so it's one of those things where I think I'm going to have to pick it out with paint. But
okay, I don't think this is going to come up on camera, but I'm just adding a very, very light highlight to the top of this guy's hood. Same to this one. In fact, I'll probably put a little bit too much on the palette for what I'm actually doing with it. There we go. I'm just working with the sort of zenithal highlight. I will say I've been doing oil painting in VR recently.
Oh my goodness.
Because I found this app called Vermilion, and it's absolutely lovely. Like it's like a proper, like rather than it just being like a digital painting tool where it's like, you know, pixels on a screen sort of thing, it actually like physically simulates paint. So it's like thick, like you can really actually like build up layers of thick paint on top of each other and blend it all in together and stuff, and paint thinner and all that kind of stuff. It's really cool. But I've been trying to teach myself how to do like actual traditional painting. Which I'm hoping will help with like how I view miniatures as well, like in the way that the light hits them and stuff. I don't think it's made much of a change yet, but fingers crossed.
Yeah, I feel like that's something I struggle with as well. It's just thinking of light, which is obviously a big part of painting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am not a painter by nature. Despite I think my mum went to art college.
Oh really?
Like, she was a painter because when we were kids, she painted Disney characters on our bedroom walls and stuff like that.
That's cute.
So, but I did not, unfortunately, pick up her talent.
My mum was also an artist, but
yeah.
I think as her fourth child, it finally finally came through. Okay. And then I'm going to grab, I think, did I just use like a straight white? I think I did. Yeah, it looks like it. First I'm just going to do yet another black wash on the blues. Just to get them really, really dark. Because they're supposed to look like a night sky. And then I'm going to start painting little stars on them.
Ooh.
Which, like, so when I first started painting these guys, I was like, yeah, I'll do like a really dark color with the orange. But I didn't want to do black and orange. So I was like, maybe I'll do like a sort of really dark blue. And it looked okay, but it was a bit sort of like, it's missing something. And I was just kind of messing around. And because he had a big wizard hat,
I was like, oh, maybe I'll do like, stars on it, like a classic, like proper, almost like a
like Yensid.
Yeah, like Mickey Mouse almost, like wizard hat. And then like as I did it, I was like, oh, that looks really good actually. And then I just sort of started doing it to all of the dark blue around him. And when you just like you do something just for kicks, and then you realize it actually like really ties the whole thing together.
That's one of the nicest feelings I feel like with painting is you can just you're making it your own, so you can just kind of work it out as you go.
It's really nice to just have that sort of click moment. It usually happens after a wash with miniatures, where you get all the details come through, and you're like, "Oh, it does look good." Yeah. You spend like however many minutes or hours thinking, "This is awful. Like I'm bad at painting. Why am I doing this?" And then, pardon me. You just do like 1 or 2 steps, and it's like, there it is. There's the quality.
Yeah. It's not just me.
Oh no, it's literally everyone. Yeah. Well, apart from maybe like the actual experts who can see it a mile away, sort of thing. I think that's one of my biggest problems with minis is like I try and rush to that point so that I don't lose, motivation. So I don't have like the patience to wait it out almost.
Yeah, I think to be honest, I'm the same. It's like, particularly on these streams, I'll try and like finish it so that within 2 hours it's like.
Yeah, because you gotta we like take a picture at the end, and it's like, oh well, I want it to look good for the picture.
Yeah. Well, if folks are watching, a reminder you can catch the podcast tomorrow.
Yeah, that's right. We'll be live.
Yeah, and Wills and I will be joined by Chase, our news reporter, because Liv and me are taking some well-earned time off.
It's just the lads this week.
Yeah.
As much as Matt hates me saying that.
I've never been a lads person in any context.
But yeah, no, we'll be, as ever, chatting about what we've been playing this week, what's been going on. It's been a bit of a slower news week, actually, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's the start of the year, so, the end of last year we had Gen Con, which was later in the year than it usually is. We had Essen in October, and of course, Christmas. So, yeah. At the start of the year, we had some, not things being announced per se, but obviously there was everything going on with Tabletop Sim and Kickstarter and so on. So there were various other news things, but
things to talk about. Sort of thing.
Yeah, not loads of just straight up games appearing. I feel like that may be the trend of this year because there's still quite a lot left over from 2021 because of the shipping kind of nightmares that publishers were going through. The things that were already announced just need to come out before they move on to the next thing. But
yeah, that's fair. But yeah, come and have a chat with us, see what we've been up to.
Yeah.
I should probably play some board games.
Yeah, well, I managed to play a few this week because we managed to play some in the office, but you unfortunately had to head off early. So
yeah, I played half a game of Wingspan this week.
It's a good game.
It's a very good game. It's the first time I've actually played it. It's my introduction to Wingspan.
Yeah. Yes. And well, I wrote about one of the games we played. I played with Liv and me and for the site, which was Fruit Punch, which I enjoyed very much.
The banana game.
Which is utterly ridiculous. Yeah, I got my banana out and squeaked it. Or bopped it, as that game puts it. It's like, bop the banana.
Well, it's more like a thump, isn't it?
Oh, it's very violent. Like, you know.
It reminds me of...
We got into this thing where, like, Liv was top of the mark with all of them. So she was coming really quick. But because she was, like, coming down, I ended up with this kind of jab motion with the banana. So I was, like, diving in and out and just, like, quick squeak in it.
We have an Alex Meehan in the chat who's asking if I'm painting bikinis on my wizards.
Hello, Meehan.
Which is a running joke now.
Yes, which
it is. It is an Aussie ginger beer that I'm drinking. It's very nice. Benderberg. It's real good. Again, not sponsored, just really enjoying it. We had like a fridge full of like Pepsi Max and Fanta Zero and stuff like that. So we turned it on its head this week and got some fancy ones. So Zoe's got some Fentimans and I've got some Benderberg.
Ooh. That is fancy.
Right. Dead white. There it is. That's the colour I'm looking for. Or Blanco Calavera. Here we go.
Decided to paint his braces like a dark brown. I think they are technically like a maroon again, but I feel like that's going to be... Yeah, it's going to be a bit much with the red everywhere, so... But he's coming together.
That is dead white. Or titanium white, as Bob Ross might
Titanium?
call it. That's what he used to say. Titanium white. Beat the devil out of it.
I'll admit, I don't know loads about Bob Ross. I've not really watched very much. But like, it's one of those things that I've only absorbed through kind of pop culture osmosis.
Yeah, no, I think most people are, like, who weren't around in the 70s. But just in general, just sort of remembered as a very kind man who he was he was a war veteran.
Really?
Yeah, I think he was involved in some kind of American conflict and was like so changed.
Must have been Vietnam?
Yeah, that or point? Like Korea or something.
Or maybe, yeah, earlier than that, yeah.
But yeah, he was so changed by the experience that he just wanted to like bring some joy into the world.
That's fair.
So he ended up getting into painting and sort of started a little public access show to teach people the joy of painting and how it sort of calmed him and brought some light and life into his life, sort of thing. It's pretty sweet. But he loved wildlife and stuff. Like he would bring like little squirrels on that he'd been looking after and stuff. Very nice guy. Unfortunately, his estate is run by some people that maybe don't really stand for the same things that he did.
And I don't believe are like related to his family, right? It's kind of like, was it former producers or something of that show?
Yeah, unfortunately. I think his either his widow or sister or something like that. There's like a little bit with her in like a documentary that was about him with like, and she kept like every single painting he made or something. Or maybe it was like, you know, like a foundation or something that to do with him. I can't remember now. I was watching some kind of like YouTube documentary about him.
Yeah, I believe there's a documentary on Netflix as well that I've not watched yet. But...
Happy Little Trees or something like that. EA says, I recommend mixing ginger beer and ginger ale together. Pop in a slice of lemon. You've got a lovely thirst quencher.
Ooh, that does sound good. I'm a big fan of ginger.
It's just a great root.
Yeah, top
out of
3.
all the roots. It's got to be top. There we go. He's got some stars on him now. Looking good. They're a little bit more polka dot on him because they don't have quite as much room to breathe. But that's fine. I think the wash is still drying on this guy. Oh, he's a bit drier up here. Let's do some on his back whilst we're waiting for the rest of it to dry.
Sean, why is it difficult?
Why you gotta be like this, Sean? Oh, I love a ginger snap angel beat. Just
yeah.
Also, the custard cream has taken a real renaissance in this house.
Yeah, the custard cream is the superior biscuit.
Out of that and bourbon, you mean?
Just have every biscuit.
I don't know about every biscuit. That's absurd.
Like, I'm a man who knows what he wants, and that is a custard cream.
And that's it.
One of your finest custard creams, please.
I'll take the most custardy cream you have. It's one of the classic British biscuits, the custard creams, you know. Up there with the chocolate bourbon, the chocolate digestive, the ginger snap as well, of course.
Yeah, the ginger snap is a classic.
The golden crunch ones with like the cream filling.
Oh yeah, what are those called?
I think they're golden crunch or something like that. Or gold
Probably.
cream.
I mean, most of these biscuits are exactly what you would think they are.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if people know what a bourbon would be without looking at it, but
I need to paint your boots, Sean.
God damn it. His boobs?
His boots.
Oh, his boots. Okay.
I'll say the fact I didn't paint the cave troll means that I can't open a topic of discussion about the fact that its nipples, which are very prominent on that sculpt.
That implies that it was breastfed.
Oh, really?
Well, if it's got nipples, then it implies that species
If it's
breastfeeds.
nipples. Oh, yeah, I suppose, yeah.
Well, I don't think he's the only cave troll with nipples. That would be weird.
The only cave troll with nipples is the spin-off Lord of the Rings children's book that they are yet to release. There was the Silmarillion and then Tolkien's other masterpiece. The only cave troll with nipples.
Release the nipple cut, you cowards.
The nipple cut.
Don't try that one at home, kids.
Peter Jackson just CGIing in cave troll nipples.
I don't trust Peter Jackson with CGI.
Going full George Lucas with it. No.
He should be taken away from CGI. He's abused his relationship with it.
Those Hobbit films were not good.
Oh, they were bad. They were real bad. We got any Hobbit apologists in the chat that we can tell are wrong?
Open yourselves up for criticism. To be fair, I don't love Hobbit as a book. It's got to be said.
So my dad used to read me The Hobbit when I was a little kid, like as a bedtime story. And he used to do voices for all the characters, which is very sweet.
Oh, that's adorable.
Which is probably where I got it from. I would love to be GM'd by my dad. I can imagine that would be pretty special. Wash was not quite ready on this one.
See, my bedtime stories were largely read to us by my grandma, who would read us the Magical Wizard School books, and then complain about the fact that there were a lot of words that aren't real words in there. Would be like, "What's this nonsense?"
Kind of comes with the territory. Not to defend them, but I think that's the book's fault.
Yeah, I mean, they're beyond defensive. Or at least elements of them.
All right, this guy's a little bit messier, but that's fine. The biggest. So the defense that we currently have of the Peter Jackson Hobbit films are Scribo saying crickets chirping. And 14 saying, Smaug look cool.
Did he though?
I don't know. I can't even bloody remember. Just tried to wipe those films from my mind.
The voice of Benedict
worst...
Cumberbatch.
Oh, God, yeah. The absolute worst thing about the Hobbit films was the fact that every single scene had that, like, horrible, like, pink sunset background to the point where it seemed like like time did not move in that world because they were like, oh, that looks nice, you know, and then it just didn't mesh with the sets and stuff at all. Like everything just looked so out of place. It's horrendous.
I'm pretty sure I saw the first one when they did it in 48 frames a second as well.
Oh,
it was like, oh, this looks really bad.
Yeah,
like everything looked really odd and fake. I mean, that probably not helped by the fact that it was not a great looking film anyway because of the ample.
I'm just gonna show these off before I carry on with that story because I've got something to bounce off of that with. But yeah, look, there we go. There's two of my goons. They're just sort of like, as they're meant to look, they're just sort of like crapper versions.
Oh, looking good.
Yeah, of their owners, managers.
Managers, agent.
But yeah, I remember when I was in uni, I went to go see a film called Gangster Squad.
Yeah, I know the one.
Which was absolutely terrible. But like when I went to go see it, like obviously the film was bad, so like I was just like, this is not a good film. But also everything just looked really weird, and I couldn't understand why. Like, because it was kind of before frame per second had ever really gone to like public discussion, you know. So it was like it was a thing that you didn't just know about through like osmosis. But I think it was in like full 60 FPS or something like that, which meant that it.
Oh no!
Yeah, like it looked like a YouTube video.
That's real bad.
It was really
films
weird.
Are just not designed to be watched at anything above 24. It's just it's a weird thing. It's a hangover from, you know, the very, very archaic nature of original filmmaking, but like it isn't right.
Is that a thing?
It never looks right.
What the FPS of this film was? Will that be on IMDb? I don't really know.
I mean, probably if it was because when The Hobbit came out, they had to install, I think, special technology to allow it to run at 48 frames a second. So I would assume that Gangster Squad, if it was above 24,
we do have
or even above
technical
48
specifications here. I can't see a frames per second. Yeah, I'm not sure, but I just remember like looking at it and not understanding why, and then realizing when I got home, like I think I'd like googled it or something. I was like, why does this film look so terrible? And it was just the frame rate. Sorry, was so high it just looked like a YouTube video. It was so weird. Gaming Geezer says it's Wheels. Kyle, it is me. I'm here quite often.
It's you.
I'm glad I still evoke surprise, but right. Last but not least, I'm going to get some Sun Yellow, which is about as close on the spectrum to orange as yellow gets of the paints that I've got, and that's going to be my highlight. So actually, if you look on the frame where I've got the picture of the wizard, which is like a way more high res way of looking at it than this will be, you can see right on the edges of his orange cloak, you'll see the yellow, which is what I'm going to do for like edge highlights.
Oh yeah.
So that is what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, that's really nice. That picks it out well. I've just very carefully painted the hole on the Horn of Gondor. Oh. Need to keep remembering where this is.
Oh, wait for the focus.
So you can see it right at the top of the horn.
Oh yeah, nice. So is that like a metallic? I can't really tell from the light.
So the horn itself is white, like bone, and then I've picked out the kind of detailing on it in silver topped with gold.
Okay.
And then the top of it, because I've had to basically create the shape of the top because, like I say, it just kind of blends into the rest of the sculpt.
Yeah, God, I can't stand that.
But I think it's come out all right.
Well, I couldn't tell that you had to do that from the thing, so you must have done a good job.
That bodes well.
Okay, here we go then. See that Alex Meehan watched Gangster Squad as well. Her response was, "What a stinker."
This does not surprise me.
It ends in like a fist fight between.
I mean, so many of those kinds of like gangster movies are that kind of thing.
But it was such a like.
They tried to do the Heat thing.
Yeah, it was such a like. You could tell it was made by someone who was just like, gangsters are so cool, rather than like let's talk about crime and why it's interesting and make an interesting drama.
Yeah,
but,
like Scorsese does, where it's like. Scorsese's movies, so many of them are about like, men being terrible, but they're not like glorifying it. They're kind of like, look how terrible these people are.
Yeah, they always get their comeuppance in the end as well, don't they? God, I did watch not that long ago, The Irishman, which is one of the most depressing gangster films I've ever seen.
I thought it was okay.
It's like it didn't need to be 3 hours long, I'll tell you that. But
no,
yeah, it was like it was cool to see, like the concept is literally just like what happens after the gangster movie ends, but also The Sopranos kind of already answered that question, like. So yeah, I don't know, it was alright, but it was
the CGI was a little.
Oh, the funniest part of that film is when why am I so bad at actor names? Who's the main character?
Robert De Niro.
Robert De Niro, when he he's supposed to be like stepping on someone like really violently after a fight.
Oh yeah, yes, I know exactly.
And you can tell he's so old he can barely move his leg, and he's just like lightly trotting on someone, and the sound effects are like. It's so stupid. They should have just hired different actors for each stage of the life.
Yeah, I feel like it's been perfectly fine in so many other films. It's not, CGIing your way out of it. It doesn't necessarily add anything. Look, those movie studios got to spend that money somewhere, I suppose.
Absolutely. God forbid we get any new actors in as well.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose at least it was like, obviously it was based on a book, but it was at least an original story rather than here's a reboot of Goodfellas or something.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure it will come with time.
Oh yeah, no, I'm sure it'll be there eventually.
As is the way of these things, but.
Oh yeah, the yellow's looking really good on this, but I need to be careful not to lean on this too much because it's literally like on the edge of the table, so it will just fall on my face.
Oh no! Speaking of wet palettes, my red has dried up a bit.
Well, that's why we use a wet palette.
Oh. Now, what colour is Boromir's scabbard? These kinds of questions. We ask the big questions here.
We do. If you've ever wanted to know the colour of Boromir's scabbard, but you don't have access to Google,
I'm about to find out on your behalf.
Then, this is the kind of service that we provide.
If you're ever stuck on an island and you're like, I really need to know what Boromir's scabbard looks like.
If you're in
the answer is it's brown.
If you're in some kind of saw trap where you're only allowed to look at YouTube and nothing else on the internet.
Oh God, that's the worst saw trap. Hello, would you like to subscribe, and ring the bell?
Don't ring the bell too quickly, though, or I'll slice your head in half. Where's the, where's the one internet page that, if forced to, you would spend
Dicebreaker.com.
life on? Dicebreaker.com.
Dicebreaker.com.
You'd read about...
Obviously, Wills, I can't believe this.
You'd read about tabletop news for the rest of your life.
I mean, in many ways, that is what my life currently is. So, I don't know. Like, I've weaned myself off of Twitter, other than for work purposes, because my brain was just a mess for a while there, and that's taken some doing. I'll be honest, because it's just it worms its way into your mind where you're like, everyone's going to forget I exist. But it's really not that important. So I don't know. I guess, to be honest, it's a very boring answer. The answer would probably be Wikipedia.
Okay.
Because it is such a useful resource.
Yeah, but you have to remember that, like,
I could probably live with...
Like, there's not much entertainment value on Wikipedia, necessarily.
Yeah, I know, but I can find entertainment outside of web pages if I need to. Like, I can go and watch a film on a Blu-ray or a DVD or whatever.
Well, that's the thing. You wouldn't be able to go on Netflix.
I mean, I can... Well, yeah, exactly. But I can go to a shop and buy a DVD.
For how long?
Well, the two shops that still sell DVDs exist, yeah.
Exactly. For how long will that be an option, Matt? I think, because, like, as much as you say it would be the worst thing ever, I think if I could only go on one, website for the rest of my life, I probably would have to pick either a social media platform or YouTube, because that is where I spend most of my internet time.
God, I can't imagine anything worse than being confined to Twitter for the rest of my life. But...
All right. I don't know how much of it will pick up on camera because it's such a tiny... Oh, there we go. We can see the highlights of done.
Didn't even realise we're coming up on time.
Oh, yeah, no, we're almost done. Yeah, you can see the other highlights I've done here, Matt, if you want to have a look.
Oh, yeah, wow, that's looking fantastic.
Let me see if I can... Hold on.
That's really good.
If I go to configure video, can I get the contrast up a little bit so that you can make it out a bit more? Because it is a bit muted. And then maybe the exposure. Ooh. Actually, maybe we want it darker. There. Is that easy to tell? Sure.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit there, at least on my end.
Yeah, well, there you go. Oh, and now that's super dark, so I'm going to have to fix that immediately.
Oh, yeah. Here's my effort on Boromir.
Oh, yeah.
Focus, Boromir, focus.
It's a good sculpt, actually. I love the fluidity of it.
Wait, am I turning it the right way? I'm kind of working off of the... Because I'm seeing the OBS stream in this Google Meet. You can see the shield, and then around on the back is the
really good, mate.
horn and the scabbard that I just did. Thank you.
I think if you were to just show me that miniature, I'd be like, yeah, no, that's Boromir, baby. That's Boromir, baby. All right, cool. Well, there's 4 miniatures. I just need to do what's that? 6 more, and then we're all good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, 6 more. We've got 2 crossbowmen, 2 men at arms, I think they are, and then 2 more, which are sort of hand weapons. But I'm looking forward to playing Frostgrave. I think Liv is also keen to play some as well. So
yeah,
it's likely we'll at least be talking about it on the channel, whether or not we manage to get Let's Play up. But
yeah, well, I think we'll have good reason. Let's say soon enough.
And then, just to further my point,
goodness,
from the start of the stream when we were talking about wet palettes, every single one of those paints I've been using, they're all as wet as when I poured them out of the bottle. Look at that, gleaming, shining.
Oh wow, yeah, they are glistening.
They are absolutely in perfect condition. So it's if you're thinking about upping your game when it comes to painting minis, either build or buy yourself a wet palette, because they just allow you to, like, they will likely save you money in the long run because of the amount of paint, like amount of usage, sorry, you can get out of each dollop of paint. That's great. Waylander said, "Not much entertainment on Wikipedia. You still haven't read about Punk. Oh, for God's sake! Why can I never say this word? Punxsutawney
Phil.
Yeah, on there.
Yeah, and there's that random article button.
Yes, there is.
As someone that has spent at least one afternoon just hitting that random article button and going down a wormhole.
Well, there's also the games you can play, like the degrees of separation from X. You know, like how many clicks does it take you to get from this page to that page? The one common use is a word that I won't say on our YouTube account just in case. But yeah, like there are things you can do with Wikipedia, definitely.
Yeah.
Right. Well, we are 5 minutes from time.
I just gave him a little wash.
Perfect.
To hopefully bring that a little bit more.
Yeah, looking good. 5 minutes from time, we'll get our final looks at the models we've been painting today. I think I'll take the camera off of the mount so I can give you a proper look. There we go.
I think the black cloak has actually worked out all right. Now that the rest of the colours are in there, I think it looks pretty close. So I'm happy with it.
So the middle two are the ones that I painted before the stream started, and the ones on the pedestals, the ones that I painted this time. There they are, looking good. It's making them look a lot taller.
Nice.
I think that's because of the angle. There we go. Yeah. Thanks very much, everyone, for watching this painting stream. As I said, if you want to show us what you've been up to today, then please use the hashtag DicePainter on Twitter or on Instagram. And we will also... Ooh, good. We will also be back for more of these streams in the future as well. So if you didn't get around to anything this time, don't worry about it. We'll see it eventually. But this has been us here.
Yeah, just thanks for joining us.
As Eggart says, oh my God, how has it already been 2 hours? Which I fully agree with. That one flew by. But that's what happens when you're having a good time. So yeah, but as I said, if you've enjoyed your time here on Dicebreaker, then please do hit the subscribe button. Click the bell icon to get notified whenever we put a new video live. And give us a like as well, because it helps with the algorithm. If you really want to help us with the algorithm, you can actually leave a comment on the video rather than in the chat, and that'll just push us even further, which, you know, got to play that game, baby. We are going to be back with more videos
this
weekend.
Hey, if you're watching this, going to sneak in a little thing, if you're watching this and you haven't already, head on over to the site or look on the community tab.
Oh, yes.
And we've got a little survey about subscriptions on Dicebreaker.com because it's something we're looking into. And we want to make sure that we get it right and that we offer something that all of you lovely folks who support us actually want in return for your hard-earned money. So
yeah, if you
haven't already, head on over to the website or just find it.
If you're interested in supporting Dicebreaker in general, we currently have the YouTube subscriptions right now. If you click the join button underneath, you'll find out more about how they work. But also that is now sort of a version of that. Whether or not it'll be the exact same thing is up to discussion. But that is coming to the website. So
yeah, that's part of what we're working on.
Exactly. Yeah. If you would like to see more of that and have your say on what that will look like, then let us know, because we have a full survey, as Matt says, where you can give us your opinions on what you're most interested in and what you would like to see from the subscription stuff. So head on over to dicebreaker.com for that.
It takes less than 10 minutes as well. So.
Yeah, also just see more of Matt and me doing some fantastic articles. See more of Chase. You'll be on the podcast tomorrow, which is kicking off at 2 p.m. GMT. I keep almost saying BST. We're still nowhere near that. But we'll be talking about what we've been up to this week, going over the news, going over the games that we've been playing, and doing a nice little feature as well, like we like to do now as well. This weekend, me and Liv have been working on another one of our RPG discussion videos, which will be coming up, which will tell you how to write a compelling RPG villain, which is quite fun. And also, I've got a little discussion that I would like to have as well that I've written myself, but that you will see more of on Saturday.
You're going to sit us down.
A cryptic witness. I just read witness me from Alex being there. A cryptic clue, sorry, as to what I've been talking about.
But thank you very much for watching. We'll see you on the next stream tomorrow. Until then, we love you. We'll see you again, and have a lovely day. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.